Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast, the pro wrestling podcast on a Tuesday or a Wednesday that we bring you. It is Pro Wrestling Weekly. We've got a full panel tonight. Joining me, Bren in the Bushwhackers shirt. How are you, Bren?
Very good. Top of the world. A bit sad this week, but I suppose we'll touch on that.
But you got to cheer us up now. You got to cheer us up. You got to do that.
You better believe it. If I was beside you, I'd lick your head.
Back from Paradise Corfu, Sean O'Rourke, repping DIY. How are we?
I'm doing good. It's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
And then the soul of the show, the man who's here week in, week out, Mr. Anger Management himself, Sean Mack. How are we? Who's representing everyone else that the lads aren't representing in that background. How are we?
I'm great. What a wonderful introduction that was. The heart and soul of the podcast. I mean, that's great. I suppose that would make everyone else the legs and the head and the arms and the arse and the calves and the toes and everything. But no, thank you very much.
The bit you don't want to be.
Yeah. But when I haven't been mourning or studying for my driving theory test, I've been keeping very well. Thank you very much, Niall, as always, for having me back on. It's always a pleasure. And thank you to Sean and Brent for joining me. You know, they say wrestling is all about dance partners. I mean, there's only so much me and Niall can shout about for an hour. We need some backups. So yeah, Brent, I'd lick your head if you were here.
There you
Sean,
go.
Thanks, keep spirit the Bushwhackers.
Right. Well, we've a decent show tonight. Not as packed as last week, that's for sure. But certainly plenty to get through. We will do our normal recap of Raw. We will have a look at Money in the Bank now that the dust has settled on what it's going to be. We're going to be talking, of course, about the releases, R-Truth, Carlito, Sarah Logan. We're going to be talking about Mariah May. All the talk this week was what brand she was going to go to. We got that answer last night. We're going to take a quick look at Fyter Fest, big 4-hour show coming up tonight for AEW. We're going to touch on the update on the lawsuit with Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis. We got an update on that. We're also going to be talking about Liv Morgan and stalkers showing up outside the Performance Centre. We'll touch on 40 years of Mick Foley tour coming up later this year, November and December through Ireland, various locations, stuff like that. So we'll touch on all those things and anything else you want to bring up and you want to talk about and stuff like that. Always welcome to jump into the chat and let us know. Baz is in there as always. Big up Baz, my brother, always in there supporting the podcast. Right, so let's kick it off with Raw. Sean Mack, take us away.
Can't even enjoy a Monster in Peace without jumping into a bit of pro wrestling. God almighty. No, sorry, I got off the bad foot. Good episode of Raw. Thought it built to Money in the Bank quite nicely. I will say, out of the three men in the main event, myself and Bren have been singing the praises of El Grande Americano from the minute he moved here, you know, conquering the Gulf of Mexico, being the first wrestler before JBL and Darby Allin to climb Mount Everest. But saying that, I'm not very happy that he's in the Money in the Bank. Maybe not happy that he's in the Money in the Bank ladder match, but in the Money in the Bank ladder match over CM Punk and AJ Styles. But that is the main event, so we'll get to that when we come to it. But
rumor have it is his boots didn't make it. They got lost in travel, apparently, yeah? They had to borrow a pair of wrestling boots.
CG, it must have been Chelsea Green, I think.
Yeah,
because she's not even on Raw, so that's really good of her to lend. Because I'm sure El Grande Americano would do the same if Chelsea Green or some other young fella came up and said, "Oh," or said, "Sorry, my Mexican's not very good, but I lose." Belt, boot. Do you have? You know, so good to see. Good to see who's in full gear. CM Punk kicked off the show. You know, he talked about him winning Money in the Bank again, and that made me very nostalgic. And I think he mentioned Jey Uso, you know, whatever, but he also mentioned John Cena. So that to me is a good sign that even though the John Cena retirement tour, I was going to say hit a bump in the road, car flipped over, the tire's gone, got 5 points on the license. Like it's totally gone off the rails, sadly. But it makes me happy to know that at least in Punk's mind, a match with Cena is still in the pipeline. But we're not going to get it this way because the main event didn't exactly go the way he planned. But then Sami Zayn came out. I liked how they're very respectful of each other. They're respectful, but they're also saying, you know, if it comes to it, it's not going to be personal. It's going to be professional. It's going to be business. And considering how good their first match was, I can't remember when it was, but the first match they had against each other on Raw was really, really, really good. So if they faced off again, I'd be hoping that it would live up. So no, good start to the show. Good that people are targeting the Dangerous Alliance or the Vision or whatever this group is called, led by Seth Rollins, and a good start to a fine-ish show, I suppose. Wasn't horrible, but like it was watchable, and that's about as much as you can ask for, honestly.
I would say it was definitely an improvement on the last few weeks. The last few weeks have been a little bit kind of felt a little bit like a chore again. I think this week kind of upped its game greatly. Sean O, Stephanie Vacour, Money in the Bank. Talk to me.
Oh, you know, I think I've touched on this before on the podcast. You know, Stephanie Vacour is an amazing talent. She really is. She knows exactly what she's doing in the ring, and even her promo skills have improved so much. You know, I always say whenever a new wrestler comes up to Raw that you know, it'll be interesting to see can they, you know, fit in well on the roster. And I think Stephanie Vacour, even before she moved to Raw, just from her appearances, proved that she can, you know, hang in the big leagues, I should say. You know, Ivy Nile as well has been getting a lot more TV time, and I think she's actually quite good. We all know what I think of Liv Morgan. I'm quite happy she's not in the Money in the Bank match, to say the least. Am I a fan of her? Ish. Let's put it that way. I'll not go too much into Liv Morgan, or we'll be here all night, me ranting on. We'll have to get the rage meter back up. I think Sean knows what I'm talking about.
No, I do.
But yeah, definitely happy Stephanie Vacour's in the Money in the Bank ladder match. I'm excited to see what she can do.
She comes in and she looks every bit a superstar, doesn't she? She just looks the part as well, and she
Really
backs
does.
it up with her in-ring work. Brain, Finn Balor picking up a win. We're being spoiled here at the moment, aren't we?
It's brilliant. It's very well done. I thought the match was great. I haven't been the biggest fan of the War Raiders, but you know what? They just it's banger after banger with them. And I was watching that and I was just going to realize they're such a natural tag team. Absolutely incredible to watch. The thing before that though, the Rusev promo, which we'll get to in a sec because I've been critical of Russo. But the JD stole the show again. It's just an incredible match and a joy to watch. The Judgment Day have to break up soon, though. There has to be a partner in it. It's great to see Finn winning, and I think we were given a bit of a hint later on in the show as to the direction that they're going to go in the clubhouse. I'm not sure if anybody else spotted it, but there was another demon sign again. But yeah, no, this was deadly. I know. Did you see the JD McDonough going over the ropes and then the stare onto the table? I was like, oh, holy Jesus. But look, he's all right. But yeah, this was deadly. Nothing wrong with this match at all. Absolute joy to watch.
Sean, Lyra brawling with Becky Lynch.
Which one?
Sean Mack.
Yeah, obviously me. Shut up, mute him right.
We're doing notation.
God, sure.
You're not that special.
I know. You know I love you. Yeah, this is a good way to build to the match on Saturday. I think Lyra. I think we were a little harsh on her on the mic because I think she really held well with the promo last week more so, but that's because there's more to it. But this week, I think she really managed to hold her own against Becky. As I said last week, I don't think the deal is as bad for Lyra as it is for Becky. As in, the stipulation is that if Lyra retains on Saturday, then Becky can't challenge for the belt again, which is very bad if you're Becky Lynch. So you think you want something like as crucial in return and it's if Becky wins, Lyra has to hold her hand. I would much rather I'd hold up someone's hand way quicker than I would forfeit any chance of me ever competing for a belt again. But it is what it is. I really enjoyed their match at Backlash a lot more than I thought I did. So I'm hoping the same will happen here. But no, good stuff by both of these men. It seems like the Irish were on fire tonight. Finn and JD won a very, very good tag team match. More of that, and Lyra and Becky had a really good promo segment and hopefully a really good match on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll be getting all your predictions, guys, for Money in the Bank after we cover the Raw segment. Sean O, Jey Uso and Sami Zayn defeating Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed via disqualification.
Don't tell me I didn't see much of this.
Brad.
Yeah, I mean, this to me, like Braun. First of all, I'm going to go straight to the end of the match. The end of the match after the disqualification. Breaker is just a natural star. He was the one that's saying, "I want to get back in the ring. I want to sort you out." He's brilliant. There's a bit of work for Reed to do, but Reed's getting better. I actually really enjoyed this match from the entrance. Did you see? Did we see Sami Zayn in the ring whilst the music was playing for Jey Uso? He was brilliant. He's just deadly. I do think he's going to go heel soon. But all in all, look, this match did what it needed to do. It just kind of moved things along. But no, it was good. I genuinely enjoyed it. They planted some seeds. Well, the seeds were planted definitely later on. But yeah, it was a good thing to kind of get things moving. The only thing I'll say is, I think Sean kind of touched on it earlier on, there's something missing with the identity of this new stable. Dangerous Alliance 2, the Vision, their music, like, and I'm nitpicking on that. I'm nitpicking on the music and all that, as I always do. But there's just something missing. There's something incomplete about them, and I think they need to fix that. I'm hoping they fix it sooner rather than later, because people will begin to kind of fiend away from them a little bit. So yeah, but overall, good. I liked it.
Do you know what it is? They have all the components in there of a great stable in terms of wrestling and in terms of performance. But they lack that drip of a Rock or Evolution, don't they? When they walk out, they need to walk out to something that's like, we've now entered the building and we own this place kind of thing.
Something that aligns them.
Yeah. Like you said, I don't know what it is. And I think maybe, I don't know, does Heyman need to get more involved? Is he too little maybe and needs more influence on it? I don't know. Sean Mack, what do you think on this? Is there something slightly missing when they step out? Does Rollins need to maybe tone down and become one of the suit wearers so they look like a 4, if you like? Because he kind of comes out and it still feels like these two monsters with Heyman are being led out by kind of Elton John. That's my, you know where I'm coming from. Like, everything looks really, really hard till Gucci Glasses steps out in the silk, and the two boys are in the background ready to go. Give me your thoughts. Sean Mack, what do you think?
That's part of the issue, but another part of the issue is that the crowd are not going to fully get into matches involving anyone in that group, whether it be Sammy, Braun, or Braun. And that's because we know that it's going to end in a run-in. We know something's going to happen. Something's going to come out. It's going to be DQ. So it's a bit hard to get into the matches. So that's from the match point of view. But from the promo point of view, I understand what you're saying, especially about Elton John. But I think what they're going for with Seth, the fact that he still has his music and he still laughs and dresses like an Egypt, they want him to be a leader who's imposing, intimidating, but also charismatic, colorful, can absolutely go on his own. But you talk about the identity. There's something missing, but I can't put my finger on it. Like,
is
if
it
you're
Rollins? I mean, is he not the leader? Like, we've just been treated to the bloodline. Roman was a proper leader. Like, when Roman came out, we had this aura about him. if you're gonna be like when Triple H led Evolution, like there was like Triple H had proper aura about him. Is Rollins missing that kind of aura? Did they not do enough in around that? There, that's just what I see anyway. I think he can be a viable leader, but I think there's something they just need a boost. They need a sudden change, and I don't know what that is just yet.
Yeah, potentially. But then again, Seth is the outside of Heyman, he's the veteran of this group.
Sure.
So without him, you just got a big man tag team that's not really all too much to look at apart from like them being huge and being able to do things they do. Seth needs to be the leader, but I think he has to be ferocious as well, because he looks like he's having fun. That's great, but that doesn't translate to like a leader. Like you talk about, like Triple H was badass, but he was also very serious, right? And he wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty for the betterment of the group or for the betterment of himself. We'll have to see, but I think it's a thing that WWE's in the state that it is now.
I think
two of the biggest stories: the John Cena heel turn,
Mhm.
and now this new group forming out of Night 1 of WrestleMania has kind of just, I'd say more so the John Cena heel turn in this, but have fallen flat completely.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I think with this group, you look at it, when you looked at Evolution and you looked at Triple H, you realistically, Triple H could beat most of the guys he was leading. When you look at Seth Rollins and you look at the two boys behind him, those two boys just carve him up. And it just doesn't make sense that they're the two guys following him out. And it's like as if, because it's only kind of started, it feels as if they're nearly setting the seed early doors that the two boys are obviously going to turn on him eventually. But it's way too early to give us that because we're so used to the long storytelling through the bloodline and stuff like that now. And it feels like we're already getting the Randy Orton moment, or the Batista moment or whatever it is, kind of being set in there. So I think with Rollins, I'd like to see Rollins maybe just tone it down a little bit and kind of just be like, that notch down from Heyman, as Sean said, in terms of seniority. But
have they backed themselves into a corner in that sense? Because I think you're dead right. Because I look at Breaker, you could Breaker's. He's already a massive star. If you look at Reed already gave Rollins a hiding before he got injured, a hiding. And the way it's been explained and all that, and I think there's no real substance to the story, and I think that's one of the issues.
Do you know what it is? When you looked at Evolution never kind of came across as four parts that came together that wanted to own the show. When you look at this group, it's like as if it's Rollins and Heyman, and the two boys are just hired hands. It's kind of like how I felt. Remember when the Bloodline was happening? Remember when they brought in the two boys, Tongaloa and Tama Tonga or whatever it was? Remember they brought them in? They just kind of sat on the outside, and I think we spoke about it on a podcast, how they felt like they were just kind of hired hands, bolt-ons, add-ons, but not really Bloodline as we think about Bloodline. And I think with this, I think Rollins and Heyman have to find a way to create the two boys as big and as monstrous as they are and what they could do, to be kind of on some sort of equal footing. So their importance in the group is not understated, like what they did with Orton and Batista through Flair and Triple H. You know what I mean? Like this has all the hallmarks that it could work out like an Evolution very much in that kind of strength and in the way they present it. And they could really long story tell this if they wanted. But I just think when the two boys are there and the way they look class. And then he comes out and it's still a bit kind of goofy and you're just there going, these two guys will just rip you apart. Cop on, will you? Kind of let's present this like it is. This is like a mafia meeting. Let's put this together. You guys are supposed to own this show. You know what I mean? And I suppose if they brought in another member or something like that, maybe you could get them that maybe instead of just being Jey Uso and Sami Zayn and CM Punk and whatever it is, maybe they just need to interfere in other stuff as well and just really owning the show. That kind of way. I don't know. Maybe that's just my thoughts.
Maybe an AJ Styles or a Sami Zayn, who was, because you can see they're kind of going in a direction, particularly Sami Zayn, very interested to see where he's going. but he has to turn heel. I guess we'll touch on that with the carrying cross thing, but yeah, I think you're spot on. Yeah, 100%. I agree with you on that.
Yeah,
I agree as well,
it.
but
Yeah.
it's very hard to like put a finger on it, like exactly what it is. But I hope they fix it because I think this group has a lot of potential. Everyone in there's good minds in there. I think their story was good. The idea of just people wanting to run the show, one of them being a visionary, who just wants his flowers and is disgusted that CM Punk is back. It works, but they haven't found a way to make it work.
Yeah.
The car has left the house, but it hasn't reached the destination.
Like remember when they brought in the Shield? The Shield was kind of more about the greatness of the sum of the parts rather than the individual parts. They brought it in. This is the Shield. We're going to take over the show. Obliterated Ryback and stuff like that and all. It was really, really cool. You know what I mean? But it was never, we never thought of it as about Roman Reigns or, John Moxley or Seth Rollins or Dean Ambrose or whatever it was. You know what I mean? It was always the Shield, and they had a cool entrance, they had a cool look. And I just think with this, it's kind of like nearly, they've put this group together and it's just dovetailing at the background on Rollins' kind of entrance kind of thing, I don't know. Maybe it takes it away from him, I'm not too sure. Big up Jilly. Hey guys, still gutted that R-Truth is gone. I really wanted to believe it was part of his gimmick where he was doing a late April Fools. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we get to talk about the releases shortly as well. Set Group is already doing War Games at Survivor Series. Going to need another member or two, though, aren't they? Early doing the 6-man War Games. Interesting. Maybe Sammy makes that jump, drops the use, and becomes something like that. I don't know. We can see anyway. Right, let's move on from it anyway. Sean O, Kerry Zane, Raquel Rodriguez.
Ooh.
Great to see her back, Kerry Zane.
It is. I've seen a video yesterday and it was just off her finisher, the insane elbow. And it really is a great finisher and she pulls it off to a T. She really does. It looks great when she does it. I think everybody kind of feels the same that Raquel Rodriguez is just one of those people that are there, I nearly don't know what they were doing bringing her into the Judgment Day. She's one of those people that just kind of stand in the background and has a match every now and again. And with the tag titles now, she has a bit more TV time, but she's not doing much. She's there, and I suppose once you look back at her NXT days, she was actually very good, and you did actually see some potential. But I think kind of with the way things went once she moved up to the main roster, kind of just went down the river, downhill, and I feel like WWE kind of needs to stop doing this thing of bringing wrestlers up from NXT or bringing wrestlers in from different companies and just having nothing for them. And I feel like that's exactly what they did with Raquel. And I think that got her off to a very bad start. Now she is, as I said, she is very good. But, that definitely was a bad start for her. But in terms of the match last night, it was a brilliant match. I have to say I did quite enjoy it. I thought Raquel did actually look quite good in the match, and so did Kyrie. And as you said, it's great to see Kyrie back. Hopefully she can get some gold or maybe win the Money in the Bank briefcase. It'd be nice to see.
Yeah, I think you're right when you look at Raquel. It's kind of, you look at the 4 of them there now on the Judgment Day, obviously with Carlito gone. All 4 of them make up the Judgment Day, but all 4 of them individually have substance and depth to them. She doesn't seem to have any depth, and I think maybe she lost a bit of momentum. Did she that time when she got, was it the injury or was she got sick or something? And they just after she had come up or something like that, and then she was away. Was it? I can't remember. Was it an injury or was it sickness? Can't remember.
Sickness, some
sickness,
sort of skin sickness.
Yeah, and I think since she came back from that, it's kind of like they're trying to find some sort of a place for her, even within the Judgment Day, because obviously I've lived there, who was an absolute buzzsaw in terms of personality and blah, 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 blah. You've obviously JD and Finn Balor in there, and they both have their things, And I often say when the Judgment Day breaks up, I don't think anyone will have a problem. Maybe Raquel might be the one who has a problem because I don't think she has a kind of an identity yet that we can latch onto, except that she's a built kind of girl. who can be a kind of muscle for the likes of Liv Morgan or something like that. But Bren, you take this one. El Grande Americano defeating CM Punk and AJ Styles. In with good company there.
What a great start to the match when they made the ref check El Grande for the steel thing in the head, and that was fantastic. I think, despite what Sean says, I think the right man won. We didn't see it coming. Why not? I think we know what's, and we'll get to the predictions, but I think we know what's going to happen at Money in the Bank. And I have a prediction of when the cash in is going to take place as well, which I'll touch on now in a sec. But the match was fantastic. El Grande, all messing aside, he's brilliant. Some of the stuff that he does in the ring, is it's just excellent. What do I have here? I wrote down the man, the myth, the legend. Imagine if he wins Money in the Bank. That would be outstanding. It would be glorious. I would love it because we wouldn't see it coming. It would be brilliant. He could add it to the many accolades that he got from Mexico and traveling the world back in the day. But the reality is, I think the right man won. There's a different story for CM Punk, and there's a different story for AJ. And I think they just needed to fill that spot because AJ and Punk had different stories. The interference at the end, yeah, it was what it was, like that. It was a bit of a kind of like jumble at the end, but overall, I thought it was deadly. I thought it was a solid main event, and I actually understand that direction.
Now you see the way we're looking at it there, and we talk about how it looked at the end. You see that picture there on the slide where you have the two boys and you have Seth Rollins, and they're kind of in variations of similar gear, and they look the part like that. They look like they've annihilated the show. They look like they've taken people out. And that's where the look is. I think that's the better look for that group and stuff like that. And we alluded to it earlier. So how the show finished is really how these guys should present themselves. That's how I feel about it anyway, you know.
I agree.
So that was kind of raw. Good episode. Plenty to like about it. Nice lead into Money in the Bank. So without further ado, we'll move into Money in the Bank and we'll get your guys' thoughts on the matches, who you think is going to be in there. I did have a look at the betting, by the way. There's betting on Paddy Power for this, by the way, if you want to bet on it, and on Worlds Collide, believe it or not. Plenty to pick from there and some reasonable odds as well, especially who my thinking is anyway. Kick it off. Sean Mack, give us your predictions and thinking behind the 4 matches.
I will just say about Paddy Power, I put a tenner on John Cena winning at Mania, and it worked, so I got paid. So I would say if you're going to bet and you want to go like reasonable, only do it on matches you are 149,000,000% sure the guy is going to win.
Remember the Undertaker story? Remember the guy in the UK? Did you see
God.
that?
Yeah, remember that. Jesus Christ.
Withdrew the life savings and threw it on Undertaker to win against Brock.
Yeah.
Double up his money to go on holidays.
Imagine
that walk up that staircase, drew all his money out of his credit union, their joint savings.
He now lives.
Put it on Undertaker.
He's not like Alan Partridge living in the hotel. And
imagine walking up the stairs at 4:30 or 5 in the morning, getting into bed with the missus, and she going, so how was WrestleMania? It was good. I'll chat you in the morning about it. 40 grand down the Swanee.
Or hey, the kids need a pencil for school. Can you get it? And you're like,
no, but I can sharpen the ones they currently have.
God. Yeah.
Right, go ahead, Sean.
Short arms, long pockets. I think I was going to say John Cena and Logan Paul by ruining wrestling. But I think if someone is taking the pin on that side, it's absolutely going to be Logan Paul. I think Jey Uso and Cody can absolutely destroy Logan Paul. Not sure about Cena. Cena's going to cheat. He's going to have, in place of Schmapp's Schmott, he's going to have Logan Paul. So it's not going to be very clean. I don't think Cody and Jey are necessarily going to be alone when it comes to Cena. So that's going to help. But the worst thing about this is it's a tag team match. As far as I'm aware, it's no DQ. So Cena can hit people with the belt. He can kick people in the balls. He can do all the stuff that he normally does, and he can get away with it. So there's not really too much for John Cena to hide. But I think Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso will win, and hopefully by the end of this, John Cena can get back on track. Logan Paul can leave him alone forever. And for the last couple months of this retirement tour, we get something a little above subpar. But that's my thinking. For Becky and Lyra, God, I don't know. Do we think Lyra actually wins clean? I say clean
No.
because the last 2 times she won by roll up,
Well,
and the second
think-
time she was blind, like
I
Ron
think
Burgundy.
Bailey interferes.
You think Bailey interferes?
I think Bailey interferes. This
And
is
then that
I'm
would
just
lead to
throwing it out
Becky and Bailey Evolution, wouldn't it?
there. Exactly.
that would mean which?
Apparently the rumor is that they're going to do Becky versus Bailey at Evolution.
Yes.
It keeps the
So-
belt on Lyra,
Mm-hmm.
and basically she's justified in interfering.
That means that Becky will only be able to challenge for the main event women's championships. God help her. How does she survive? Yeah, I'd retire. Like that's a horrible hand
No,
to be
that's
dealt with.
The women's US title.
Yeah, you
Still
may as
got
well.
that.
Oh yeah, I suppose. But she have to go to SmackDown. SmackDown's shite. But poor Becky Lynch. But anyway, speaking of women, for the women's ladder match, I wouldn't mind someone like maybe Alexa Bliss. I think if they're going to bring her back and establish her as anything closer to what she was initially, I think Money in the Bank's a great start. But I could also see them going with the very obvious one with Rhea Ripley. But I could also see them throwing a curveball and doing Stephanie Vaquer or Naomi.
so.
I think-
So who are you leaving out here?
Roxanne Perez.
Okay.
She's going to do more Judgment Day shite.
Do you know who the extremely hot favorite is for that match
Go on.
in the betting? Naomi.
Wow.
Naomi
my
is
prediction.
the clear favorite.
Naomi.
Is it?
It
Yeah.
makes sense, yeah. I think it makes. And I think she deserves it as well. I
And
think
just in
she's-
the, and in the previous match, Becky is the hot favorite in the betting.
Don't trust
See,
those
nor-
odds.
but
John
normally the
Cena
betting
wins
is a
when
good
men's are-
indicator.
But you'll always
normally
get
a good
one.
indicator.
You'll always get one curveball, maybe. But with what's on the horizon,
I'm just thinking because what happened with Tiffany Stratton, she won, and she was really impressive, and it come up from NXT not too long ago. And Stephanie Vaquer and Julia, and to an extent Roxanne, have all come up. I would say the most impressive of the 3 is probably Stephanie.
So you're gonna have to give us one.
Yeah, I know there's 6, and I've named everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't see because I need my glasses. Can you tell me?
You know, if you put €5 on each one, you don't win.
Yeah, I know.
Close your eyes and point to one.
Yeah,
Said
fuck,
it.
I don't get- yeah. You only live once, and money doesn't come out of my wallet very often. So I'm going with Naomi for the women's.
Naomi, you won't win much money if you're betting on Naomi. She's the
No.
hot favorite.
I
Rhea
would-
actually is one of the outsiders.
Yeah, Rhea
the
seems
betting.
kind of obvious though,
Hmm.
and I don't really have much appetite to see her right back in the title picture again. I kind of like
No.
not that she's down, but the fact that she's in a different scene that's not involving the Judgment Day is very refreshing. And then for the men's, good lineup. I actually ended up really enjoying the men's ladder match last year. So hopefully this delivers. Andrade, Seth, LA Knight, Sol Sikoa, Penta, and our old friend El Grande Americano. I think it would be a wonderful day for Chad Gable if he manages to win the AAA Mega Championship against Vikingo on Worlds Collide, and then he sees his best friend win Money in the Bank. And then if he cashes in or whatever, they can maybe form a tag team or something like that. So a lot of prospects, and I think El Grande Americano is like the American dream of this, like the young luchador, barely has a lick of English,
Is it?
not even in the country that long, suddenly goes and wins Money in the Bank, and change because they say Money in the Bank can change your career. So wouldn't it be great? But he's up against some very, very stiff competition.
Does
Part
it
of
feel
me-
like? Does it feel kind of like a lucha weekend?
Possibly, yeah. It could be a weekend of Lucha Libre. I mean,
The Masked Crusaders.
Masked Crusaders, yeah, just like
Mm.
Zorro and all those beforehand.
Mm.
There's an obvious one here, just because the situation we're in on Raw, and that's Seth. And I think Niall, and this just came in my head there. I didn't think it through, but if this group needs identity or prestige or something, I don't think a Money in the Bank briefcase would hurt. But that's just
I have a varying view on that, not too far away from what you're saying. But I'll come back to it. I'll let you guys go next. Sean,
Yeah.
Oh, so right. I think for the tag team match, I can kind of see it go maybe one or two ways. I feel like Logan could take the pin some way, or as you said, WWE has gotten quite good lately at throwing curveballs. So, me personally, just my opinion, I could see Jay possibly taking the pin. I don't know. I just have that feeling. I can't see Cody taking the pin just because, the whole Cena WrestleMania match, and Cena was the one to beat him for the title. So, I feel like WWE could throw us that curveball of having Jay take the pin. Um, it'll kind of be that whole thing of, we pinned your world champion. What the hell are you gonna do about it? So yeah, I think for this match, winners I gotta go Cena and Logan. For the women's Intercontinental title, gotta go Becky. Now that's a tough one for me to say because you know yourself, I love both of them. We always support the Irish. We love our people. So this one is tough for me, but I think I gotta go with Becky. And hopefully, as Bren touched on there, maybe Bailey getting involved, and that sets up the match for Evolution. For the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, I actually think this is really cool because once you take a step back and look at it, it's old versus new. So it is. We got Naomi, Alexa, and Rhea, who would be kind of the veterans of the locker room versus, all the newbies, all the up and comers, I should say, possibly the next women's world champions or WWE women's champions. So yeah, I'm excited. As you said there, Naomi is the favorite to win. So I think I gotta go for either her or Alexa. But I'd love Stephanie to win too, Um the men, God.
Hang on, you haven't given me a winner yet. You can't pick four.
Oh.
You can't just drift along the whole roster here and then just head off into the sunset. And then when we talk about it next week when we're reviewing it, and you're going, oh, but I did mention her. You mentioned all six.
Given character
let me ride my pink bicycle into the sunset happy.
No, you gotta pick one here. You gotta give us a winner. Looking at the lineup on it, like the fans are gonna be a winner anyway. This is a stellar lineup for Money in the Bank.
It is. It really is. Let's go with Naomi. Let's go for the obvious choice here. As we touched on there, it's been what? I'd say 2017 since she last held a title, like a world title of sorts, So maybe we could get her cashing in on Tiffany, and we could get the glow put back on the women's championship. I'd like to see that again.
Kind of feels like it's going to start out nearly like a six-way, isn't it? With the three NXT girls and the three girls going at it. Kind of like that kind of way, I'd say. Yeah,
I hope so. I'd like to say that. I think that it'd work out very well. I think the fans would be very into that.
So you're sticking with Naomi, yeah?
Sticking with Naomi, yeah.
Don't forget, folks, in the chat, give us your picks for Money in the Bank. Don't sit in the background in silence. Let us know what you're thinking on this. Are we off the ball? I'm really looking forward to Bren's because I know Bren has had a notebook in front of him all week. He's gone through this and he's probably booked out WWE for the rest of the year on the outcome of this pay-per-view. So it's all good. I can see by the pen in his hand.
The brain's going.
That's it. Give us the men's. Sean.
Oh, I mean, obvious choice here is Seth. You know, if not Seth, right? I'll give you a straight answer here. If not Seth, I could see LA Knight winning, but my pick is Seth.
Bren, break it down for us. No one has linked anything in this pay-per-view yet.
I'm
Till
glad
I
you
go
brought
to
it up,
Bren.
Niall.
Till I go to
glad you
Bren,
brought
because
it
I
up.
know. Because I have thoughts on this. Go ahead.
I'm gonna start from the bottom. Okay, so first and foremost, Andrade is not winning. Okay, he is definitely not winning. My pick for Money in the Bank for the men is Seth Rollins. It has to be. It makes sense. I think if they were to give it to LA Knight, do you know what? I think the ship has sailed with LA Knight for now. He has a bit of work to do before he gets back to where he was. That's my opinion. Now, I think Seth wins. I think if this match opens the pay-per-view, it's going to give us the ending to the pay-per-view, right? So that's what I think, right? So I think Seth to win that. The women's one, great observation from Sean. I didn't even cop that. Absolutely right. Old versus new. Old. I shouldn't have said old. But I'm going to go with Naomi. Initially, I was thinking Alexa, but Alexa, I don't know what the crack is with Alexa at the moment. I don't know what her character is just yet. She's halfway in this way. She's halfway in that way. I don't know. I agree with Sean as well about Rhea Ripley. Give her some time. Is Bret Hart here? Who's that? Set wins. Oh, okay.
Hold on a minute.
Wait a minute. Just the excellence of execution.
We're talking about Goldberg.
Don't mention the G word if Brett's in the chat. So Alexa, her character's gone. Do you know what? I think I'm gonna go with Naomi, but it would be cool to see Steph win as well. Steph is brilliant, off the charts. So going into the women's match, my prediction is Bayley interferes. I don't think it's a problem. I'd like to see Becky as Intercontinental Champion. I just don't think it's a problem if she doesn't. She's had a quartered career as it is. This puts Becky and Bayley into a feud, and it lets them go off and do their thing. And it means Lyra can do something else. She can do something fresh. She can challenge a fresh challenger for Evolution. Somebody different. Maybe somebody from the women's match below. We'll see about that. Now, the men's match. I touched on this at the start. So my prediction is one of two things is going to happen. Seth Rollins is going to, I'll tell you he's going to win now in a sec. Seth Rollins is going to cash in. Now, he can cash in on either champ, by the way. Both champs are in the ring. But I actually think he's going to cash in on Jey Uso. Because the rules say he can't cash in on John. If he doesn't do it then, he will do it on the 9th of June. He'll do it on Gunter. Gunter will go over Jay somehow through some tactics. And then basically on the episode of Raw on the 9th of June, we would have a new champion. We'd have two new champions that night if it doesn't get cashed that night. And that's the end of the Money in the Bank story for that. So my prediction is Seth Rollins and to be champion within less than a week. But the next time we record this show, Seth Rollins will be champion.
What are you going to do if she's not?
So great question. So do you know what I was thinking? Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I was thinking that.
Whoa! You're not getting to answer that yet. That's up there. You can have a think about it. You're not just diverting to the Wyatt Six in the middle of our Money in the Bank.
Better believe it.
That's nearly a half a show. You dropped a grenade on me last week. You pulled the pin and you headed off.
I'm gonna get to the Wyatt Six.
We will get to the Wyatt Six. Don't worry. We will absolutely get to the Wyatt Six. Right.
So just before we go any further, my prediction on that is that I do think that either Jay or Logan takes the pin. But yeah, I also think we should have stipulations. By the way, that's not a bad thing. We should all have predictions, and if we bet on a certain horse, if one of us are dead certain, maybe we have to do a forfeit. We'll touch on that another time. Sorry, Niall, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Poor Gunter. Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of thinking like you. I don't see this new Rollins Heyman group walking around with a Money in the Bank briefcase for any longer than the length of a show. And I think if we do open up with the Money in the Bank match, the ladder match first the men's one, and Rollins wins it, that has definitely set the scene to make us sit up for the rest of the show. That's for sure. So I'm thinking kind of Seth Rollins. If it's not Seth Rollins, El Grande would be my pick, but I think Seth Rollins is kind of the shoe in there. In the women's one, Naomi is the hot favorite here, but I think they're very, very hot on Stephanie Facour at the moment, aren't they? And I think from a Money in the Bank point of view, they might want to put it on one of the new recruits up from NXT. And I think if it's any of them, it's kind of Stephanie, because the two girls are kind of together and Stephanie's kind of sailing her own boat at the moment and going in last as well. So I'm thinking Stephanie Vacour. That's my outside shot. Lyra and Becky, I think Becky takes the belt. I think Bailey costs Lyra, leading to Bailey and Becky at Evolution for the belt. So I think might happen. And I think Bren is right. I think we could see a cash-in here, or we could potentially see a failed cash-in, but I don't see that being the case. But I think we'll see a cash-in here, and I don't see it being John Cena. So ultimately, I think it will be Jey Uso. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm going with John Cena and Logan Paul to pick up the win, Becky to pick up the belt, Stephanie Facour and the Money in the Bank, and Rollins to win and cash in on the same show. That's what I'm thinking, because there has to be jeopardy within this pay-per-view link somewhere. So that was my thinking. Dano's in. Does Rollins, if he wins, try cash in, and we get Reigns returning to screw him?
I think that would do more damage to his group. I think that would do a lot of damage to the little boy band, not little boy band, to the little what do you call it, Dangerous Alliance 2. See, I don't even have a name for them. It would do more damage to the no-namers. That's what I think.
Well, they have to figure out the 2-4-man for the war games anyway. So that's they're gonna have to start setting seeds on that shortly.
They're the Ballyfermot Blue Brass and Reed band.
That's it. Well, we give it to Stephanie Facour. I don't think Rhea needs Money in the Bank. I find the men's lineup a small bit underwhelming compared to the women's. Really?
I think a lack of a bad show for AJ Styles probably doesn't help. But
yeah.
But then it's often these lineups that maybe don't look that good on paper because there's a few new people that end up being absolutely brilliant. And I know no one's talking about Penta, but he's no stranger to tables, ladders, or chairs. So he'll certainly deliver on his part. We'll have to see. And that was I forgot to mention it, but do we see any of them cashing in? Because history's shown that the women cannot hold on to that belt for like more than an hour before they cash it in. And then the men's remember Drew won it last year for the men, and then he failed to cash in because Punk attacked him. We'll have to see.
We're kind of we need that kind of John Morrison, Shelton Benjamin guy in there, don't we, to really light up that Money in the Bank.
Andrade, Penta.
Yeah, we need that Shelton Benjamin kind of John Morrison. There we go. JJ Security was upgraded to B&B Security. It's the Authority 2.0. Sure is. Right, let's talk about the releases. Came at us the other day, knocked us all a little bit sideways. Huge wave out there for R-Truth. I'm not going to pull them all up here, but the amount of tweets from the likes of Kevin Owens and various other people on the Miz and all, and even down to Dom on the Judgment Day and all, how they all spoke, how everyone spoke so highly about R-Truth. As only you could, a consummate professional, God knows how many years he's in the business now at this stage. I mean, I've watched him at least through about 10 different characters at this stage. Sean, Matt, kick us off. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, this totally blindsided me. I think if there's anyone who I ever anticipated to be oh my God.
Well, listen here, Maven's able to walk into AEW locker rooms and stuff and all. So.
he announced his intention to compete in the Winning Bank ladder match, and they go, "You don't work here." Oh,
yeah.
my bad.
Very
That
good.
would be amazing. But no, if there's anyone who I thought would have been a lifer for WWE, maybe when he stopped wrestling or something, and you could get maybe a producer role or a backstage role, I would have absolutely put R-Truth in there. So him just getting released just like that is shocking. I saw the tweet, and again, like everyone, I thought it was a joke because R-Truth has a habit to get his dates wrong, be a bit of a joker. And all the comments that post were, "Oh man, it's so funny, deadly," or "Oh, get his dates mixed up." And then I went on Twitter and I saw Sean Ross Sapp said, "No, it's real. That's it. He's gone." And what stings most about this is apparently these releases, this new block of releases, have been Triple H approved. So with the ones beforehand, like you can brush that on TKO, but these ones were Triple H, and you kind of wonder, like, why? Like, how can you not keep someone like R-Truth around? How can you have him have, admittedly, like a glorified squash match against John Cena like a week ago, and then all of a sudden he's gone? It was really, really sad. You know, Truth has been there since I started. I've seen him through everything. I've seen him through good, through bad, through feuding with John Cena, through becoming a conspiracy theorist, to Little Jimmy, to smoking, to the 24/7 title, to stuff with Carmella, to his obsession with his child, just like myself, childhood obsession with John Cena. We've really seen every side of him, and he gave everything. So, I don't think his the way he left was a reflection of what he accomplished or what he was capable of. To have someone that long and then just to get a text saying that's it, absolutely fucking sucks. But R-Truth is an ageless wonder. He's like Benjamin Button. I think he's like 53. He legit looks the same as he did in 2009 than he does in 2025. And he absolutely has all the talent. Like, he's funny, a good wrestler, good musician as well. So I have no doubt that he'll land on his feet, and hopefully he'll be all right. And I feel quite similar about Carlito. Was not expecting him to be on this list as well. I wasn't expecting R-Truth or even Sarah Logan, for that matter, to be gone. Carlito is especially a bad one because he was brought back for Backlash in Puerto Rico, was incredible. Then properly brought back with the Judgment Day, and he was funny. But the issue is that was really all he served as, comic relief. And he's a very, very, just like R-Truth, like, he actually looks better at 50 than he did at like 20. And he's in better shape now than he was like when he was here in 2006. It's a shock. And you could cite, well, you can't cite, like, they're charging 300 quid to sit in the nosebleeds outside the 3 Arena. They're not tight for money. But all the releases beforehand, like the last batch that had like Braun Strowman and Gigi Dolan and all these people, they said budget cuts. They really haven't given any reason for this. So I wonder why. What's the point?
Yeah, well, I suppose typically when they make these cuts, especially the last round of them and stuff like that, it's not really budget cuts, because if you add up probably what these people collectively cost, it's probably minute in the bigger scheme of things. But I think the issue here is, and the reaction was huge, especially for R-Truth. I mean, I think when we spoke about the Judgment Day breaking up, we've spoken a number of times on it. We've said, okay, once they break up, we kind of know they'll have a plan for Liv and Dom and Balor and JD. But as we spoke earlier, okay, what are they going to do with Raquel? What are they going to do with Carlito? What happens when Carlito goes out on his own? And we spoke a few weeks ago about how the LWO hadn't been kind of hitting, where we needed to hit as a faction and stuff like that. So going back in there really wasn't an option, because you're just adding in another cog onto that wheel that really isn't spinning the way it should. So I wasn't necessarily surprised. I was surprised at our truth, because I did think he was a lifer. I think he's quite dynamic. I think you can throw anything on him and he will make it work. He will make it sell. He will make the best out of it. He will give you a steak dinner out of burgers and stuff like that and all. He's really, really good at that stuff. He's really, really good. You know, the dynamic of how he thinks and how he operates is very, very good as well. I don't think he'll have a problem in terms of work. I think when you've been so institutionalized for that long, for so many years, 20 years, whatever it is, it's very difficult to step out of that and find your place somewhere else that kind of operates and looks different and feels different, where you want to kind of, I'm sure our truth in WWE, he felt belonged. I'm sure when he showed up at the arena, every single roster member, you know, came into his circle and said hello and chatted and shared stories and whatever it was of how life and personal stuff is going on. It may not feel that way if you walk into an AEW or you walk into where you don't have necessarily those long-term relationships that are there. On the flip side of this, I would say they can't just keep on pouring people in the door and bringing people up from NXT and, you know, having this amount of TV time, and something has to give. Now, that may not have to have been our truth, but someone has to go out the door to open up that space for someone else to come through. Austin described it a million times. Take the cog off the wheel, you put a new cog in, the wheel keeps spinning. This is how the business operates. These boys and girls are well aware of that and stuff like that. But I'm sure for our truth, I'm sure it would have been a shock. Now, the talk going around is that he was offered a contract, and obviously the contract maybe would have been obviously lower financial, and he didn't want to accept it. Maybe in not accepting that, maybe he wants to step out and try something different and do something different. But I think TKO is a company as well. This is where we're starting to see the signs of this. We've seen it with the office staff. We've seen it with the technology staff and everything else. They don't carry people. They're a very, very slick operated business. You've seen it in the UFC for years, how they operate. It's not massive numbers. It's very dynamic people who can do a lot of things, who are challenged on a daily basis. And I think WWE may not have been that way previously, where they were carrying people and they were quite bloated. It was never going to stay that way. And I think not only does it happen in the office, not only does it happen with the road crew, not only does it happen with representatives around the world and officers around the world, but it also dwindles down into the roster as well. And I think at some stage they're looking at stuff and going, okay, we know our truth is great. We know he's comedic. We know he brings all these other things. But in reality, and I'm sure he was on a very good contract. I'm sure he wasn't in there. For the length of time he was there, he would have been on very good money. And, you know, we heard people coming out and saying, oh, Vince McMahon turned around and said he was a lifer. He'd never be gone. And people saying, oh, Vince was still there. He wouldn't be gone. Okay, let's you know, be careful what we wish for at times, you know. Yeah, I don't know. It was disappointing that he's gone, but I can see in terms of looking solely at a business and how a business operates, and if you have to make cuts, who do you make cuts to? How do you open up space for people to go in there? You know, Mariah May came in this week. She's on NXT. The girls have come up from NXT onto the main rosters and stuff. So you got to kind of make space. You can't just keep on building out this roster. I've said it 100 times on this show. I think at any given time, they've 180 contracted wrestlers on the books. 180. Let that sink in. So eventually someone has to look at this and go, right, you're probably using 20 maybe on each show that's relevant in storylines and stuff like that and whatever else. What are we doing with all these guys in catering? What are we doing with all these guys that are under contract? If we were to let them go, what's the net effect of this? They'll probably bugger off the AEW. How much damage could it create? They look at all these scenarios. These are shrewd businessmen. And unfortunately, business sometimes doesn't always get it right. Bren, thoughts?
I thought it was interesting watching Raw and how many times the chance broke out to bring R-Truth back. So I think he has the fans' support behind him, which was never in doubt, really. There's a couple of things about this. I mean, I did hear he's a Vince McMahon guy, and maybe they're trying to get rid of that kind of situation. But I also think then if Triple H was, say, privy to the information that, I nearly said K Quick, that R-Truth was going to be let go, I probably, if I'm Triple H, I probably would have put a career versus title match with John Cena at the Saturday Night Main Event. Kind of give him a proper sending off. Like that probably would have been an idea as well. I had a friend as well say he reckons that my friend said, I reckon it's part of some kind of a story. I don't. I think it's out there. I think it's too serious. But he reckons that it's part of the Survivor Series storyline that he's going to come back somehow. But I don't. I think it's too real now. And it's too out there. Stevie Richards, he reckons, I listened to his thoughts on it. He reckons that it's probably a message to all the other wrestlers. Listen, put up or shut up, or shape up or ship out even. Because if we're going to let the nicest guy in the locker room, the most beloved guy in the locker room, a locker room leader, go, well, then you're not as safe as you think you are. And like it's been said in the chat as well, I've heard rumors about maybe the Miz being next. But I think, look, bottom line on R-Truth, I don't like the fact that he was released like that. I thought he was a lifer. And like it's been already said, you could give him anything. And he'd like chicken salad, chicken shit into chicken salad, I believe is the thing that Jim Cornette says. The Carlito thing, that's mad as well. Carlito came into such a great buzz. I think the LWO, I think anybody that touched the LWO, it didn't really affect them positively in the long run. But Carlito is such a good, he's such a good person that you could use outside the Judgment Day. You asked there a few minutes ago what would happen to the Judgment Day members. I could think of a few things that you could do with Carlito. He's somebody that has stock behind him. He's somebody that could put people over. And he's got a lot of wisdom, and he's really good. I haven't got much to say on Sarah, to be honest with you. She's cool, but like that, she wasn't on Raw, and like I didn't really notice her when she was with the War Raiders anyway. So to me, and I know she's talented and I know she's good, but I didn't really take notice of that. But look, it's not good when anybody loses their jobs and loses their contract. Also, as well, R-Truth is not going to be short of any money. He has the inside the ropes tour that I'm sure he'll eventually do. He's also opened an OnlyFans. So those of you who are interested, if you Google R-Truth OnlyFans, you will get straight through to R-Truth. That's how I feel about that.
If that's your persuasion. The one thing I would say, like, even if you have Sean, now you can take it as well, but even if you have great ideas where you feel where R-Truth could be used or Carlito could be used, the issue in this company at the moment now is time. They simply don't have the broadcasting time to facilitate this. And what happens is, if you try to facilitate this, then you get watered down versions of all the other matches that you're using to position you to move to the next location and the next location, next location. And that's the real problem here. You can't just have a Carlito segment coming out with the apple and all that kind of stuff, as much as we love it and stuff like that. And listen, I can put up the list of the 180 wrestlers potentially that are under contract, and we can make a case for every single one of them being loved or a great guy or a great girl or whatever it is. At the end of the day, it eventually comes down to someone putting a pen through a line in a paper and going, this is where we cut off. This is what goes. We've seen it plenty of times with the Black Fridays and the Black Saturdays and all this kind of stuff where people get let go and stuff like that and all. You know, Drew McIntyre was let go, the chosen one, the golden child, and was let go. You know what I mean? So it's tough when they get let go, especially if they're guys that have entertained us for so long. But I think at some stage, like in any business, sometimes you just have to call it and go, okay, this is where we begin. I don't think this is the end of it either, but I also don't think it's the end of R-Truth for us, which is really, really cool. And the beauty of wrestling at the moment is there is options out there, potentially like TNA and Ring of Honor and AEW and all these other tours and ways of doing stuff and all. And you know, and R-Truth's one of those guys. He's a cool guy. He's beloved by all the wrestling fans. He crosses over really the brands and the federations. I don't think there's anyone out there that isn't an R-Truth fan, whether you're an AEW guy or girl or a WWE guy or girl. I think most people have a huge height of respect for R-Truth and what he did in the business. So we shall see what happens. Sean, thoughts?
You know, as you guys touched on, the one thing we always have to remember at the end of the day is that whether it's WWE or TKO, it's a business at the end of the day. You know, the sad reality is, and not just for WWE wrestlers or wrestlers in general, just us humans in general, at the end of the day, if you have a job, you're a number, you're extendable or expendable, which however you say it. I don't have a way with words, but you know, it's
You were
sad at the end of the day.
thinking of R-Truth's only fans there. That's what you said.
I
Extendable.
was, yeah. I was thinking of Mark Henry feet pics there, you know, as it said in the bio, you know, I kind of got a bit excited there.
Damn right.
You know, it is sad at the end of the day. But I think WWE have talked about, or I think Sean Ross Sapp talked about that NXT and Evolve have this new rule where, you know, they give you kind of leeway for a year, and if you haven't, let's say, made an impact
Sink
of
or swim.
sorts,
Sink or
sink
swim.
or swim. If you sink or swim, if you haven't made an impact within that year, you're cut. And I suppose that's kind of the difference with WWE and AEW, is that AEW are just building up and building up and building up their roster, you know, taking as many ex-WWE guys, as many ex-TNA wrestlers as they possibly can, and building up that roster to the point where it will eventually get to the point where it is too stacked. And as you said, you know, every show is working with a time constraint. Not everyone can be on the show. You have 2 or 3 hours or an hour, however long, to make an impact, get as many matches, promos, wrestlers on that show as possible. But AEW will eventually get to that point where their roster is too full. And then you have WWE on the other hand, where, as you said, you know, have, well, I think around, as you said, 180 wrestlers. But they're making those cuts, and even though that isn't the nicest thing, you know, it's people losing their job at the end of the day. It's business. It's never personal. It is strictly business. And if there's one thing I always like doing, it's whatever wrestlers, you know, as soon as we see on Twitter or whatever, you know, budget cuts and all the wrestlers that have been released, one thing I love doing is sitting and just reading through it and kind of imagining, you know, where they could be, or, you know, what they could have done in the company, you know, like R-Truth, as we said, you know, legend, comedic relief, just overall legend, goat.
Yeah, I suppose the shocking thing as well with Truth as well is he's just come off a match with John Cena, so you would think there's a certain level of appreciation for what he brings to give him to that point. Some people were saying, well, they gave him that kind of a thank you, like, you know, a tip the hat on the way out the door or whatever. And, you know, him holding up the towel as well as he did the last time as now was kind of significant as well, maybe, now that we know. But yeah, I just think, look, when wrestlers get released, we're never happy and stuff like that. But I think Truth hit hard because you could see by the reaction, it nearly felt like we had lost a wrestler. Felt like a death in the family, nearly, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. Keith makes a great point as well about the roster aging out. It is aging out at times, and, you know, some of the average ages in there are 40 and all that kind of stuff, and you have to look at that as well. But, I mean, if that's the case, then, I mean, you look at a lot of guys in there at the moment are, you know, like Finn Balor's probably in his 40s at this stage. He's hardly like one that needs to be chopped because he's 40 or stuff like that. Still has plenty to offer and stuff like that and all, you know what I mean? So I don't think that's the case, but we'll keep an eye on it. I don't think this is the end of it. I think this will be something now that we're just going to have to get used to. That you look at these guys and go, right, there you go. And, you know, hopefully it's not something that impacts heavily on kind of the storylines we're attaching ourselves to as we go along. Mariah May, good news, has arrived. All the talk this week was, what brand is she going to go to? Rocks up last night on NXT. Got an unbelievable reception on NXT, as we would expect. Had a brilliant run in AEW, culminating with the storyline with Tony Storm and all and stuff like that. She's absolutely fantastic. Sean Mack, Mariah May has entered the building.
Yeah, good to see her. I just wonder how long we'll be calling her Mariah May and not Mateo or
About a week.
Mariah June or well, sadly I've heard she's gonna have a new name. So make it. I saw someone suggest it could be Mariah May, but the May is spelled M-A-E.
I did hear it'll be a slight different variation on the current name. So
Yeah.
I actually that's what I heard. So I think you might be dead on what you're saying. Hopefully.
Miriam.
Miriam May. There you go.
Yeah, probably something like that. It'll probably be something like that, but don't fix what is not broken. No, good to see Mariah May. I'm happy she had the Hollywood ending in AEW, like that match with Tony Storm. I saw clips of it recently. It reminded me how good it was. And I don't see this as her leaving AEW to join the rivals. I see it more as her just getting more feathers into her cap, getting to do more. And now there's a brand new landscape for her to live with. The NXT women's division is great. Raw and SmackDown possibly not as great, but still good. So there's a lot of new talent for her to play with. We'll just have to see how it goes. But on the offset, I'm very happy that she made it over.
She's gone from Division 1 to Premier League, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the way to put it. She's been promoted to Premier League.
Absolutely, yeah. It's
Yeah.
probably maybe a bit harsh to AEW. I'd say they're more like they're championship at best, I'd say. They're championship, but they think they're Premier League. But no, good for Mariah May. They presented her as a star. Hopefully, in a couple months' time, we'll still be saying that she is a star.
Yeah, it's just, you know, some of the stuff we've heard over the last couple of weeks that we covered, obviously, Will Ospreay talking about how AEW is kicking WWE's ass kind of thing and all, and on all the different levels and stuff like that. And then Mariah May rocks up, you know, under contract now with WWE. This has to hurt AEW as well, you know, because they're losing at times significant stars to WWE, you know, Mariah May being one, obviously CM Punk is the big one, Cody Rhodes, you know,
Ricky
like it's
Starks.
not Ricky Starks has come in, Miro is back, you know, that there seems to be a bit of a dam opening where it's beginning to go the other way now as opposed to the way it was going originally, where you were getting sort of the big shows and the Mark Henrys and, you know, all those other guys going over there and stuff, you know.
It's an example of the grass not always being greener on the other side. And actually, I think sometimes AEW's done more damage to characters than anything else. Like, and in some cases, they expose people. They expose Sasha Banks for what she is, average at best. They didn't do much with Miro. They should have done a hell of a lot more with Miro. Aleister Black as well. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think they've a lot of work. They've still got a lot of work to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, but an absolute fantastic talent coming in. I'm really looking to see now, you know, how she matches up and who they match her up with down there and stuff like that and all. Because obviously she's ready to go. I wonder how long she'll even spend down there. It's going to be very, very interesting. But yeah, welcome to the roster. That is for sure. Let's take a look at Fighter Fest coming up tonight. 4-hour show with AEW. Sean Mack, if you want to kick us off at the top one there, AEW International Championship 4-way.
So is the whole show 4 hours, or is it like 2 hours of Dynamite followed by 2 hours of Collision or something like that? Or
no, I think as far as I know, this is it.
Oh, fucking hell, 4 hours.
as from what I can tell, this is it. But you can see the matches there that are going to take a little bit of time on this show. Yeah.
And here I was thinking, I might actually stay up for this, because I. Oh God, look, I'll run through it.
Yeah.
I think the four-way is going to be brilliant. Everyone in there is great. Kenny defending against Brody, Mascara Dorada, and Claudio Castagnoli, although I don't see Omega dropping the belt. Moxley and Mark Briscoe in a presumably non-title affair. I don't see anything indicating that it is for the belt. I think Mark, you have the vicious heel in John Moxley and the lovable underdog babyface in Mark Briscoe. Wrestling doesn't always have to be so complicated. It can just be a good guy that everyone likes and a bad guy that everyone doesn't like. So I think that would be good. Knowing Moxley and knowing Mark Briscoe, especially at Double or Nothing, I think he's going to bleed a gusher.
Yeah, this will be a tale of two gushers, I'd imagine.
I think Moxley will have to tie his shoes and he'll accidentally elbow himself in the head and bend down, and blood will just be pissing out of his head. Timeless Tony Storm, Mina Shirakawa. I almost saw this as like a 5-way because Mercedes is in there in the middle, like a thing in a snow globe. Against
Christ figure.
This might be one that has to be muted, is it?
Yeah,
100%.
I'm not mad about her on the mic when she's talking for a short promo segment. When she's going to be talking all throughout the match. Oh dear, I might have to switch to Spanish commentary on Fight or something. I don't know. I think Timeless Tony Storm and Mina will win. I'm either thinking they'll win, or maybe Mercedes will get off commentary and distract Tony Storm. But really, I just see this as a vehicle to further the story between Tony Storm and Mercedes Moné. And then, was I meant to do the whole thing, or was I meant to let other people?
Yeah, no, fire away. You're on a roll there. We're not going to.
I just remembered you said, Sean, talk to me about the 4-way, and then I kept going. Wait a minute, I should. FTR against Atlantis Jr. and Templario. I'm sorry if God, I've never survived in Mexico. I think FTR got a really good deflating win against Nigel McGuinness and Garcia, because we all love Nigel McGuinness. We want to see him win. We don't get that. FTR, kind of cut you back down to earth. I think the Atlantis Jr. and Templario are going to be fun, and the crowd are going to be into them, but FTR are just going to show them that they're not from around here, that this is their house. The Toxic Spider, squash Toxic Spider.
Yeah. Next.
Whoever she's wrestling, all they need to do is bring a glass and a bit of toilet paper, and she's in fucking trouble. Just say that much.
Yeah.
Just wear very large shoes and stand on her. That's it. Match over.
This is not Mariah May.
It's not Mariah May. No. No, it doesn't work. I was going to say it's Mariah. Doesn't quite work yet. Trios match. I think this will be great fun as well. La Facción Negronable. I see Roosh. I see Beast Mortos. Beyond, I can't make out who that is in the middle of that, but against Kevin Knight, Commander, and our old friend Speedball Mike Bailey. It's going to have to be Kevin Knight, Commander, and Speedball, because Speedball's incredible, and Kevin Knight has just come in, and he's incredible as well. I always love the stuff in New Japan. I'm glad that more people are getting to see him. That'll be a fun match. 4 hours though, I don't know. And then we'll hear from the Hurt Syndicate.
Looking ever so dapper.
Yes, very dapper. I think MJF, star of Happy Gilmore 2, might shoot himself in the foot in some way or another. I don't know if they're going to kick him out and he's going to be babyface, or if he's manipulating the group to turn on some Lashley or Shelton. I don't know, but I'm interested to see where it goes from there. But yeah, this looks like a good episode. Would I watch 2 hours of it? Hell yeah. Would I watch 2 hours 20? It might be pushing it a little bit, but I presume the ads make up a good chunk of that. Would I watch 4 hours of it? Absolutely not. No, because normally when they say a 4-hour broadcast or 5 hours, they have Collision, Rampage, and the show. So you're like, okay, Dynamite's 2 hours, so I can just watch that. But no, it looks like this is going to be 4 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How are they going to get 4 hours out of 7 matches. In fairness, the pay-per-views normally have like 9 or 10 matches. This has like 7.
Yeah,
So
well, I
you'll
mean, you could see the top 2 matches nearly taking up what, an hour and 45
Yeah.
at
From
least, and then you're gonna have to clean up the ring after Briscoe and Moxley. That's gonna take about an hour.
Yeah.
So like there's it goes by. It seems like a long time, but it goes by quite a bit. And then I'm sure with the tag match and the trios match, they'll want to present that in a certain way, because obviously coming up this weekend you have Worlds Collide and you have Money in the Bank and stuff like that. So they'll want to throw their shade on that, no doubt, with what they're doing in these matches as well.
If it's going to be 4 hours, you'd hope the card on paper looks good, and I think the card on paper does look good.
Yeah.
So I have to see. I don't see myself watching it. Maybe in chunks if it's 4 hours long, but we'll have to.
Yeah.
Let's see. But
I feel like we only stopped reviewing the last one this morning. Do you know what I mean? And we started last week. So, I mean, this one, it's 4 hours long. I'm not going to watch it tonight. I'll watch it tomorrow night, 100% at some stage. But Jesus, because if you remember last week, I think we spent probably about 9 hours reviewing it. It was ridiculous.
Do you know what? I normally commit to these, and then about an hour and a half in, I'm in the bed fast asleep with the phone and AirPods all over me and stuff like that and all. And I just wake up in the morning trying to remember how far I got into it before I drifted off, kind of thing, you know.
Pods on my bed.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll absolutely. I mean, look, we'll review it and see how it goes and stuff like that, and see what it leads into. And as Sean said, might be some interesting stuff there between Mercedes Moné and Tony Storm leading into their match that's coming up and stuff like that. And also, that should be interesting. What have you guys made this week as well? MVP has been running his mouth this week, hasn't he? Talking about how Hogan should never be on the Mount Rushmore and all this kind of thing and all. Did you catch hold of these interviews, these things he's been saying and stuff? Apparently Hogan has no right to be on the Mount Rushmore or something like that.
Well, I think
I'm not defending it. Go on. Yeah, go on,
sorry,
Sean. Sorry.
Ryan, I'm no Hulkamaniac, but in ring he was fine-ish. He hasn't done his public image any favor since. But he was a star, and he got wrestling to a stage that without wrestling would have never taken off. That was the classic era. You know what came after the classic era? The Attitude Era. And then Ruthless Aggression, and then PG. And I think they call this era with Triple H the Renaissance era. But look at all the stuff we've had since Hulk Hogan. It's been great. We never would have got there without him. And I don't like Hulk Hogan. Like, I think he's a bit of an arse. As said, he hasn't done himself any favors in many people's eyes. But you can say that without pretending like he wasn't a big deal or he didn't help wrestling get to.
You don't have to like something to appreciate it. The impact that it had and stuff like that. And I firmly believe, I go back and I look, if there wasn't the likes of Hulk Hogan and Macho Man and guys like this and all, I think really wrestling, these guys would still be throwing headlocks beside Hook a Duck in a carnival. And that's how and that's always my thoughts on it. And I think they need to appreciate that. And listen, look, I get it if someone wants to come out and have a conversation about that, about who they want on it and what should be on it and stuff like that. But you're gonna have to be someone who's actually done something really, really big in the business to have that kind of reach with fans like us and stuff like that, because that's not the place for that guy to be making that conversation.
No, and as we know, all of wrestling is just a matter of opinion. That's all it is. There's no real right or wrong when it comes to most wrestling. However, if you're talking about Mount Rushmore of wrestling, which everything's around Mount Rushmore these days, it's a bit of a pain in the arse listening to it all now. But without Hulk Hogan ushered in the Attitude Era with the NWO. Without the NWO, there's no D-Generation X. He's the foundation. Listen, if Hulk Hogan didn't wrestle and do what he did, MVP would be an accountant today. He wouldn't have half the money in his bank account. And that's a fact. Do you know what I mean? Like Niall rightly said, he'd be putting, if he was a wrestler, he'd be doing headlocks by outside a barn or a McDonald's or in a bar like Jericho used to do. It's, I think it's outlandish, and I think it's a way to just get into headlines and to just jump on something. he's just trying to be controversial for the sake of being
Yeah.
controversial, and I
Yeah,
have no
well,
time for that.
Yeah, I think if you're not happy with the other stuff that Hogan has done and come out with and stuff like that, come out and talk
Sure.
about that stuff. But you can't come out and start mounting on about Mount Rushmores and stuff like that and how you feel about that when everyone in the business knows what the impact was and why he sits there. He's not sitting on that Mount Rushmore, because of all his other views and how he's put his foot in his mouth down through the years and stuff like that. No, he's sitting on that Mount Rushmore because he was the guy who dragged the business over the line along with the bravery of Vince McMahon at the time, to take it from that level, territory level, whatever you want to call it, to make it kind of all through America and global and worldwide and all that kind of stuff. And I think in 100 years' time, 200 years' time, people will still be talking about Hulk Hogan, but people still be talking about MVP. I don't know. That's my view on it. Just to let you know, folks, as well, we had Mick Foley, 40 years of Foley tour has been announced. I think they're still booking dates and stuff like that at the moment, but number of Irish dates through November and December. I seen one for Dolan's and I seen one for Roisin Dove, is it?
Roisin Dove and Galway.
Yeah.
And there's three of them nights on sale. The first one is sold out, and the other ones haven't been advertised yet.
Yeah, so there you go. So they're coming up this November and December. Dates are out there. If you want to check them out, I'm sure they're on the website as well. We also had this happening as well this week, which is to me is insane. Person accused of stalking Liv Morgan reportedly arrested outside of the WWE Performance Center. Thank God he was arrested or whoever it was. So yeah, but it just goes to show it's there are some crazies out there. Speaking of crazies, we had the flip flop is back. Janelle Grant, her lawsuit has been upgraded now. John Laurinaitis has been taken off it because he has agreed to cooperate. John Laurinaitis has agreed to cooperate and provide evidence in Janelle Grant's lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE. His agreement to confidential settlement is a pivotal next step toward holding McMahon and WWE accountable and bringing justice to Miss Grant after years of sexual abuse and trafficking. Mr. Laurinaitis looks forward to moving on with his life. We cannot provide any additional details at this time. I think Vince McMahon's legal team have responded saying this move doesn't change anything in relation to the truth that will come out or something about this whole thing. Doesn't change anything in terms of their approach to it or something like that, something in around to that and stuff like that. So we'll keep an eye on it. But Johnny Ace. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Because it's I'm with him, I'm against him, I'm with him, I'm against him. It's not good. You know what I mean? Not good. Keaton, I think Ric Flair should be taken off the Mount Rushmore the way he treated JR recently with his cancer.
But again, I think that's it wasn't cool. Ric Flair was off his bin. He's a bit of a mad thing, but without Ric Flair, then you have the likes to say Ric Flair led the way for the pure wrestling. You know what I mean? His matches with Dusty Rhodes, Ricky Steamboat, he inspired people like Shawn Michaels, he inspired people like Triple H, and who knows, without Ric Flair, you probably don't have that kind of thing either. But I have to disagree with Keith on that. An opinion is an opinion, even if you don't agree with it. Even if it's wrong in your opinion. So
yeah, I think it's these people as it gets on and on and on find it more and more difficult to still make themselves a little bit relative, and we know Rick's one of those guys that finds it very difficult to step out of the spotlight. I think it was a bit of a jab, to be honest, and I just thought I don't think it was in good taste, but then again you just don't know, so it's a strange one, all right. But I don't think.
But it doesn't matter what it was intended as; it matters how it comes across.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think pretending like he wasn't pivotal or wasn't a good wrestler is the right thing to do. You can just call him a prick and then forget about him.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that case, should Shawn Michaels be taken off to take off it because of his behavior in the 90s? it's the same kind of thing. Like Shawn Michaels did some hideous things in the late 90s. Do you know what I mean? You
Well, see,
can't really have that.
this is opening up a much bigger conversation because remember, I think there's only 4 on the Mount Rushmore, is there?
That's right.
Is it
Yeah,
4?
no, fair enough. Yeah.
So we can't put Hogan, Flair, Shawn Michaels, and then one other. So it has to be. I think it has to be dissected down. I've done these shows on the old podcast with Ian and all, and it's really, really difficult to arrive at it. You really have to segment it down. It's to pick 4 wrestlers out of the body of we know of pro wrestling is just it's so difficult. Right, a little bit of history and birthdays, and then we get out of here. Yeah. 2009, on the episode of Raw in Birmingham, Alabama, Kofi Kingston defeated MVP
Hooray.
to win the WWE United States Championship. See the way I construct all this? You see? Don't do me dirty. 2010, Wade Barrett is crowned the first winner of the NXT show when the brand was a quasi-reality show. David Otunga was runner-up, with Justin Gabriel finishing in 3rd.
David Otunga.
Do we feel old now, lads? The quasi-reality show.
Yeah.
Aging, yeah. Justin Gabriel and David Otunga are names I haven't heard in a long time.
Absolutely. 1973, Dory Funk Sr. passed away at the age of 53 as a result of heart failure. And we also have another one as well. 1998, the Junkyard Dog was killed at the age of 45 in a car accident in Forest, Mississippi. But what we were talking about earlier, and it feeds nicely into what we were talking about in the show, 2014, the Shield implodes on WWE Raw. One night after the Shield, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns defeated Evolution, Triple H, Randy Orton, and Batista 3-0 in an Elimination Rules match at WWE Payback, one of Sean's favorites, Payback. Batista quit the group, and WWE and Triple H promised there would always be a plan B. That plan was revealed at the end of the night when Seth Rollins shockingly blindsided his Shield cohorts with vicious steel chair shots as Triple H and Orton watched on from ringside.
Brutal.
Hence the reason Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed stand behind Seth Rollins now, not in front of him. So they can keep
the fun thing about the Shield, I found out recently when they debuted at Survivor Series, they came out with the turtlenecks, but they were also meant to be carrying little riot protection shields that had Shield on them.
That's right, yeah. I
Itty
read
bitty
that
little policeman.
Can you imagine?
Like the Hulk Hogan helmet, the Gladiator helmet that Hulk Hogan had to wear.
But like hold it like this and said the Shield on it. That was like their.
That would have died. That's ascension levels, isn't it? That would have died there and then, I'd say.
And another thing, the original lineup was meant to be Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Chris Hero, aka Cassius Ohno, instead of Roman Reigns.
We're definitely going to do it, Barry. Don't worry. We're definitely doing it. We're not forgetting. Be prepared. 1989, Dusty Rhodes made his WWF debut by defeating the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, at a house show in Boston, Massachusetts. 2000, Eric Bischoff won the only championship of his career, the WCW Hardcore Championship, in a match on Monday Nitro against Terry Funk.
Oh my God.
There we go. 2006, WWE announced they had officially acquired the libraries of World Class Championship Wrestling and Stampede Wrestling. Eventually, they would be offered as content on the WWE Network. That's your history. Notable birthdays: the beautiful Velvet Sky, 1981. The man who I met in the shop, James Thorne, 1977, has a back like concrete. Madonna's favorite son, Grado, 1988. AJ Styles, 1977. The Total Package, Lex Luger, 1958. Jim Crockett Sr., 1909. Jade Cargill, 1992. Mikey Whipwreck, 1973. Gorilla Monsoon, 1937. And we rounded out with Drew McIntyre, 1985. They're your notable birthdays for this week and your bit of history.
Why is Mikey Whipwreck being slid in there? He's a fucking legend.
I'm older than Jade Cargill.
And I'm younger than Gorilla Monsoon.
And I'm younger than all those people there.
Sean really rubbing it in there.
You potentially might be younger than all these people here. So
yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
I'm the youngest one here, so
you were, right?
Yeah, we won't We don't need to discuss the ageism here, okay? I mean, let's
Age
get
is
past.
but a number, but we are aging out here. So Keith might want me taken off the podcast. So we'll see. This is his comment about the roster, you know. So there you go.
Oh,
Bit of
dear.
fun there.
Sorry,
Brian,
dear.
take us out with the way at 6. You said you were going to update us even further, no?
Absolutely. So, as we know, the Wyatt Six are back, and they were back this week, and it's a bit more consistent. So, here's what I think needs to happen with the Wyatt Six. The Wyatt Six need to reestablish themselves, right? That's the first thing they need to do. So, here's what I would do. They need stakes. We need to know why. They need to go back to their roots. They need to go back to the Wyatt roots. This is just my opinion, and keep the characters there. So, what I would do is I would run vignette. Can't pronounce it. Vignettes.
Vignettes.
Yes, look at me. Look, I'm all over that. I am. I would run vignettes on each individual character. Okay, I give each one a background and a story, and then I give them targets. And at the moment they're targeting the SmackDown tag team, but I think the Wyatt Six should be the ones to kind of get in and break up the Judgment Day. I think they need to reestablish themselves first, go back to their roots, break up the Judgment Day, disrupt it. They should be everything that. What's that group? What was that? What was a Ricochet's group back in the day? They used to switch light switches on and off. Who were they?
They used to switch
Use
lights
it.
on and off.
Yeah,
Do you know when the
electricians.
power went? No,
ESP.
do you know when the power went and it was and it ended up it was Ricochet's group, I think. It wasn't Ricochet's group. It was somebody else's group. I forget. They came in and they broke up the sets and all that. This was during the
Retribution.
pandemic.
Retribution.
Yes, forgot about them.
Yes.
Those
They
legends.
need to be what Retribution was supposed to be. They need to disrupt it. So
Domestic terrorists.
that's where I. No,
You know what your
mentioned it.
problem is, though, don't you? Retribution had talent.
You couldn't be way off the mark because here's the deal. I believe in the Wyatt Six. Every one of them have talent. They've proven themselves in the past, and then they can do it again, and that's a fact. And I think if they reestablish them, if they go in the right direction, we're going to be having a different conversation in 5 to 6 months. If they do what I want them to do.
The only thing with the
All right.
vignettes is I remember when they brought them in, everyone had a vignette dedicated to themselves on Raw, talking about like, I think Eric Rowan had one talking about the mask, and everyone had one.
But-
So it's not like people forgot
but-
who they are. It's just
It's gone too far now. They were off telly for too long. They need to reestablish themselves, and I think it's true to vignettes again. People need a reminder. As a wrestling fan, I have a very short memory. I couldn't even think of Retribution, and they only happened about 5 or 6 years ago.
We got
And the
there
way
in
I
the end.
described it was
We got there in the end.
with a little help from my friends. But the reality of it is, I think there is a place for the Wyatt Six. You mentioned, Niall, that they don't have any talent. You couldn't be way off the mark. How did they not have talent? Explain that to me.
Okay. When you strip back all the love for Bray Wyatt and the memories of Bray Wyatt and everything else, and when you strip that all back, what are you left with?
The story is still there.
No.
I
You're
know where you're going.
You're left with a hokey situation that's being presented on a wrestling show. And the fact that our troop got let go and these people are still there beggars belief.
Right. But what they need to do is, this is what I'm talking about. They need to bring reality into what they're doing. So they need to go Cape Fear. They need to
Reality.
go kind of,
You've got a guy walking around with a pig mask on him. Reality. Where's the reality in this? This is insane.
there is a reality to that because there's people out there like that now, 100%. And like in that case, you've got like the likes of, say, I don't know. I should have been more prepared for this. I actually didn't think you were going to bring it up. But either way,
You dropped the
you've
bomb
got
last week on the show. You pulled the pin out of
Right,
the grenade.
you know what?
last
You're
week.
right.
Made me bad.
You're right. But here's the thing, right? El Grande Americano. You know what I mean? Like nobody walks around like that. Do you know what I mean? That's not exactly grounded in reality. If you look at that story, there is a
I
story.
don't think
with the Wyatt Six, and there's
anyone's
a
going to
place.
find a hero in a Wyatt Six setup.
Anti-hero maybe, but
Exactly, anti-hero. They don't need to find a hero. We're looking for the anti-hero, and people are going to get behind them. So
No,
just
they're
in
not. No,
conclusion,
they're
right?
not. No, they're not.
Just to wrap my piece up on this, I think re-establish the characters, vignettes do the job, and then give them a target and let them establish and grow from there, and let's see what happens.
Reestablish is the word of the week, by the way, folks. Just to let you know.
How many times did I say it?
Opposite situation, though.
When you don't believe in what you're preaching, the word reestablish is where it comes from. There you go. There you go. Yeah, you pivoted from a guy who everyone thinks is really cool in El Grande Americano, and that it's going to cool and it's working stuff like that, and you pivoted from the Wyatt Six to that.
I have to say though, I kind of agree with you a bit, Niall, because it is a bit of an opposite situation. So you look at all the other groups, like I'm gonna bring back up here just before we finish up, the Judgment Day and Seth Rollins kind of current group, and we'll mix the Wyatt Six in with that, I suppose. So you look at the Judgment Day and Seth Rollins group individually talented, but put together confusion. And I suppose with kind of my opinion, the Wyatt Six together, as you said, Bren, re-establishing themselves, that'd be great. I think together they have that character and personality in a way. Separated though, but individually, kind of lost in the mix.
That's not their fault though. That's the WWE's fault.
No, there's a difference between being lost in the mix and not being the ingredient that should go into the recipe. These guys are baking at the moment a pro wrestling cake here that we're all enjoying. And the next thing, someone wants to take this other ingredient and put it into the cake that's going to spoil the cake. When I want to watch a wrestling show, I want to watch a wrestling show. If I want to watch a horror movie, I'll put on the horror channel. I don't need to have it cropping up in the middle of my wrestling.
But what is wrestling? Wrestling is a circus. There's a place for everything. We talked about it earlier on. There's a place for comedy. There's a place for the serious stuff, and there's a place for the weird as well. And I know we kind of look back at, say, like the Undertaker and Kane and all that stuff is a bit mental, but there's definitely a place for a group of American people that are just nuts, that are mental, that walk around with the masks, because you wouldn't have to throw a rock too far in certain places in the world before you'd find those. There's a
huge cohort of wrestling fans out there that still haven't recovered from Kane and the Undertaker, who still haven't got over the fact that they weren't actually brothers, all this kind of thing. So we don't need to be going down that road again.
The John Cena retirement tour scares me more than the Wyatt Six. But I like the Wyatt Six.
I think the deal is time will tell. I think if WWE do it right, that was a great analogy about the ingredients in the cake. But I also think sometimes the bakers making the cake can get it wrong, and it's up to them to prepare the ingredients in the best way that they possibly can. And I think that's what the Wyatt Six need. And if I got the pen, and I got in control of creative and a bit of time, I'd turn it around. I'd make the Wyatt Six.
Oh, 100%. Eric Rowan, Intercontinental Champion. Absolutely. I'm here for it.
Niall just made the list.
I'm here for it. Bren just made the list.
I made a few lists.
You just made the list.
Oh, yeah. That's a Bo Dallas, World Heavyweight Champion. Howdy, yeah. Good luck.
He was in the Rumble in 2015. He was being built as this NXT prospect, and he did quite well. So, I don't know.
He was very good.
They could suddenly remember.
Then they decided, here's a mask and a top hat and a lantern. There you go.
It'll be all right.
I'm gonna follow the Wyatt story, and basically maybe I'll touch on it the next time we talk.
Do you know what it is?
Because they wore part of SmackDown.
Do you know where it's coming from? I get it now. You're the only one here sitting in the darkness compared to the three of us. So I get it. You're gonna take us out with your bushwhacker stance. Let's see the bushwhackers.
And like I said, if I was in those rooms, I'd lick their heads. I shouldn't have said
there
that.
we go, folks. Until next week, tune in for Bren's Wyatt Six update. We're going to have it as a section nearly on a weekly basis now to see how these guys are doing. But until next time, folks, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button, drop a like on the video and share it. And also follow all the guys on their socials as well. We will be back next week to check in and see how Money in the Bank went, what our predictions were like. Should be interesting. And we'll also get Bren's latest update on the way at 6. Until next time, folks, enjoy your week.